Hey everyone, how you doing tonight? Welcome to Draw for Turn, our episode 1. Alright guys, let's draw for turn. We're here to bring you Commander Insights and Hot Tech to level up your game. Each episode focuses on a different topic with our 4-man pod to give you all the spicy info. Here's a quick little intro into who we are before we delve into the news on the stack and this episode's topic, your first commander.
What's up, everybody? My name's Adam. Some of you might know me as a former co-host on the Around the Heart Earth podcast. Turns out I've actually been playing Magic just as longer than I have been playing Hearthstone, and have been in and out of the game for quite some time. Started back in Onslaught block, and I took a little break during Mirroring for reasons. Picked it up again in Cons block, and now I'm back full time playing Commander, and really enjoying the format. I like finding really interesting combos and taking extremely long turns. This may or may not make people hate me, but I hope you guys love me and love our content.
What's up? It's EK. I started playing Magic with Magic Arena in the very, very, very beginning of that beta. And then I stumbled across the Command Zone and game nights and got hooked with Commander ever since, and it's been an addiction. And you can find me playing Scape Shift and bolting people with Valakut. Or playing Feather. Pick your poison.
My name's Sean. I go by Astro's Flame on Twitch and other media platforms. I started Magic the Gathering at the time of Scourge and Mirrodin, the original block. Commander-wise, I started back in my second year of university. Legitimately, my first commander deck, I found 100 rares for my binder. I chose Niv Mizzet the Firemind as my commander, and I threw that deck together in like 10 minutes, and I have been hooked on Commander ever since. Big fan of dragons, and currently working on making a 10-deck EDH box for playing with friends with all 5 of the Elder Dragons, so I'm the dragon guy.
That's awesome. Hey everyone, my name's Steven, aka Swazzo. Started playing Magic as a kid around Urza's block, really fell into the game, running people over with some Goblin Bidding, Odyssey block, casting my free artifacts in Mirrodin Constructed, which Adam alluded to was not the most fun for a lot of people. I will blasphemy. These guys actually introduced me to Commander a little over a year ago. Right at War of the Spark was actually my first Commander game. And it's just been so much fun, and I am not going to stop playing anytime soon. If your deck has islands in it, I'm listening.
Hey, awesome. So guys, that's a little bit about us. We want to get you the juicy details, so honestly, we're going to delve right into the topics we've got today. Adam, why don't you take us through our first topic?
But first is gentlemen, we have 1 minute to talk about various news topics in the world of Magic the Gathering. The news is on the stack, so let's get see what's resolving today. For those of you in the Western world, the Courier came out last Friday. Courier finally released last Friday, May 15th, and there were some issues, some packing issues with the box toppers. Guys, what went wrong?
Well, wasn't there like bent? There was bent cards going on, wasn't it? Like half
the
bent.
Box toppers looked like Pringles.
Once you pop, the fun don't stop.
What the gentlemen are alluding to here is that some of the box toppers were mispackaged packed in the booster boxes and got tucked under the middle row of cards. This did lead to a lot of commotion amongst the Magic Twitter community and a lot of hurt feelings amongst retailers. Guys, what does Magic do to fix this?
I feel like Magic has to give some kind of not reimbursement, maybe so much, but like replacement. Like if you've got a bent box topper, customer service will send you a new copy of that, just like they did if you get the open foil, like a blank foil card in your pack. You send that in, they'll give you an extra copy of the foil or rare of what could be potentially pulling.
I don't know the particulars of it, but I think they did just announce they are going to be replacing the super bent ones. I'm not particularly sure on the specifics, but they are going to be doing something to take care of that. But this is particularly atrocious as far as curled foils that I've seen, and I've had a couple in the past, but this is really bad. Fortunately, all of my cards were fine.
All right, passing priority to our next topic. New commander. Speaking of new products, the new Commander product also is so C20 is now available. But there are a lot of issues with that, and including some misprints. Basically, foils. What you would, if I'm not mistaken, you would receive some basically unprinted cards or test cards in and not the good kind, not the convention mystery booster kind.
Yeah.
So what does this mean for this? There's a bunch of these floating around. So what does this mean for the secondary market?
Well, that one Magic the Gathering misprint Facebook group is going to have a field day. But I think this is really, really rough because the supply for the commander decks in the first place was already at 20% of intended in the first place. So it means there's actually even less quality product out there. So we might see some spikes in prices for, maybe a month or so. Who knows?
You see this a lot in the Magic Online community. It's very weird because people don't open their treasure chests. So a lot of the new standard commons that are very good, standard rares, people just don't have them. So the supply is so low, but it's usually Magic Online only. We're seeing that right now in Paper Magic, where these cards, there's only a few copies because people aren't opening packs. So,
And that's only going to drive up market price of things. I mean, what we saw already of the 5 decks that came out, some of the cards were already $20 to $30 just because that's the first time a card was printed, and now there's even less print on, right?
The counterspell in like the blue counterspell mini force is like $40.
yeah.
Minimum.
And most people haven't even had a chance to get their hands on them yet.
Yeah.
That's right.
Even if you had the 40, where are you getting it? Like...
All right. Priority is passed is next to today. Some news today. There's been some bannings once again. Let's talk about brawl bannings. Drannith Magistrate and Winota, Joiner of Forces, are now banned in Brawl. Is this a foreshadowing for Commander?
No.
No. The format's so different. 100 cards. The Drannith Magistrate's just one of them. In Brawl, it just seems so much more. Everything's just hyper acute. Like that Drannith Magistrate's gonna come up so much more often and just leads to less fun. But
Can you imagine having to ban a Boros card in Commander?
what kind of in this economy?
Yeah.
In this style, when a white deck already has issues, cough later topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens to so Drannith Magistrate still is a problem card, or is not that big a problem in Commander?
Don't think it's that big a problem in Commander. It's a flexible card that you can put in. It's a 2 cost. It's stealable. It may stop Commanders, but at 2 health for what it's got, like, you can interact with it. It's a 2-drop. It's not well statted.
It's a 1/3. It's actually pretty well
Oh,
statted.
it's 1/3. Oh,
Yeah.
I think with
oh, I
Brawl
say, well,
being
still, that's a bolt. That's bolt range.
Brawl
Yeah.
being standard only, it's a little harder to remove. When you have the
Yeah.
entire catalog of Magic's history, that card dies really quickly.
Yeah.
So-
Exactly.
Passing priority to some more bannings. Much to no one's surprise, Lures of the Dream Den and Zerta have been banned in both Vintage and Legacy. Gentlemen, is this an indicator that Companion is too good even in Commander?
Yeah, to a certain extent. It's not so much the companion cards, despite Luris aside and Zerta aside. The issue with companion is you have an 8th card in hand, does not affect your hand size, is completely uninteractable by your opponent, and you can play it. There's no downside to it.
I think the other thing too is it's just deck construction difference. It's really hard to make a companion work in a 100 card singleton deck versus a 60 card 4-of format.
I agree.
I would definitely agree, especially like
such a problem.
Do you think there are any problem companions in the future for Commander?
Like, I don't know, maybe Garuda.
Maybe.
Like I think Garuda or the 5-color one are the 2 best ones.
Yeah, I'd agree. I feel like we've seen like some really cool commanders come out. I don't think any commander that like needs to be seen as being banned right away.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
And finally, on the very top of the stack, Magic the Gathering Arena announced an open tournament consisting of multiple qualifiers, and multiple days for, if I'm not mistaken, a $20,000 prize pot. Good. Is this good for the? However, entering each pod is costs either gems or in-game gold. So this could be a means for Wizards of the Coast to entice or increase spending in Magic the Gathering Arena. Gentlemen, good for the community or a cash grab?
So I think this is really a little bit of both, and I think that that's totally okay. I think as far as a company is concerned, I'm okay with a company making a profit on something that I'm enjoying, and the fact that we're sitting at home, like people are in quarantine, it gives us something to do. It's very similar to side events at a GP is what I'm equating it to. You pay about $20 worth, and you get to play in an event that has actual cash you can win. I think that's a good thing overall. Of course, no one's going to be happy. Not everybody's happy about everything, but I think it's a really good thing. Guys?
I think Stevie Swazo alluded to it. There are no GPs right now. There are no SCG tours events right now. There is nothing. So if this is the competitive standard scene for Magic for the foreseeable future. So at least they're doing something.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
Yeah,
but
it's a solution. I mean, they're even letting some local game stores run FMM drafts through Magic the Gathering Arena. Right? It's a new platform. Not to say that Arena is new, but the way of having this tournament in Arena at least gives the ability for competitive players to get into something in this state of emergency world we're in.
All right, gentlemen, all topics have resolved, and now the news, there's no more news on the stack. So let's take that right from there to our main topic of the show, your first commander.
So, biggest question commander players always have when they're brand new to the format is, how do you choose your first commander? What color do you play? How do you even make 100 card singleton deck, depending on the card? Well, guys, let me tell you, we have the answer to these questions with several points to consider below. We're going to start off with our first topic, and we'll give it to EK because I know he's very, very passionate about this first one we've got.
Okay, so we've basically broken down how to pick your first commander in 7 different kind of tenets, things to keep in mind, everything like that. So the first one on our list is the commander has a simple strategy, yet a powerful impact. So think about a card like Xenagos. I read Xenagos, I know exactly what it does when it hits the battlefield. I'm pumping my creatures, I'm going base, I'm trying to, do Voltron or commander damage or something like that. Like, I know exactly what I want to do the second I'm building a commander deck with Xenagos, for example. But that's not the only commander that has a simple strategy at powerful impact.
Yeah, sure. So like there's a lot of other a big jumping on point for a lot of players is some sort of tribal synergy strategy. So tribal strategies are very easy to build around and easy to understand. I have a lot of this card type or creature type, and that's what the deck cares about. So for example, like Crinkle Mob Boss would be a really good example of a commander with a simple strategy and a powerful impact. The strategy simple is you just slam some goblins down, Crinkle widens your board, and then you turn sideways at your opponents and kill them faster than they can kill you.
Yeah, I mean, stemming from your point too, Adam, I mean, what if we looked at like Rourke Thar, the Unbowed as well, right? Like that's a very simple color combination.
Yeah.
And it's just a straightforward effect. Whenever someone casts that non-creature spell, you take 6, doesn't matter who. And he goes for a swing. Like, he's a big boy.
Yeah, so your deck cares about anything that mostly creatures, but punishes your opponents for playing anything that's not. So yeah. It's pretty, and you have a relevant 6 power beater as your commander.
I feel punished just talking about that as somebody who plays primarily instants and sorceries.
Like, your decks have like what, 4 creatures in them?
If you're lucky.
5.
Yeah. If the keyword being if you're lucky. If it's got a creature in it, Stevie Swazo probably isn't playing it very often.
Yeah, and I mean, I more than make up for it though. I'm the Joey Wheeler of our play group. For lack of a better term.
Yeah, you play with your heart and a lot of luck.
And
your decks contain mostly creatures and like 1 spell.
I mean, to be fair, I have a deck that has more creatures than lands in it.
That's true.
Okay.
That's like 1 deck.
I mean, that's textbook Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing to look out for when you're looking for choosing your first commander is you want to have you want to see if the cards featured in the deck are easy to understand with no complex keywords or rules interactions. So we play in a format where it's basically a modified vintage ban list, and that means that you have every keyword and interaction and every rules quirk from the entire history of Magic the Gathering, a long 25+ year history.
And there's there's hundreds of keywords if you're
right. Sometimes
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, some only make an appearance one time, some make an appearance several times. And then not only that, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of cards, like over what 15,000 plus unique cards at least.
Yeah.
I think we're over that now, but yeah, like there's an absurd amount, and I mean, trying to pick out something that's gonna give you a strategy to move forward with is like the hardest time. Because I mean, there are some commanders that even say like you can't cast this unless it's in your hand.
Yeah, or it'll have like it'll have a complex keyword or something like that. Like if someone were jumping on, let's say now, I probably wouldn't say this, but like they were jumping on like 3 years from now, and I would not like, and they wanted to build a deck based around mutate. I would probably not advise them to build that, because especially if they are very new to Magic, there's like a lot going on with that keyword. Is like one of the more complex keywords they've come out with recently.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah, but like if we looked at something like a Cirque Dragonclaw or maybe Bruna Light Alabaster, like those are kind of things that are pretty straightforward. There's not too many complex keywords. I mean, aside from Bruna's interaction with the graveyard, but nonetheless, it's a fairly easy resolve.
Yeah, so that's so for a new player, being able to understand what their cards do is like extremely important, because they want to feel smart. They don't want to feel like they're being helped along by the other players at the table or anything like that.
Yeah, or like you play a card and it interacts in a way that you didn't think it would, even though it might be, at the surface, a very simple looking interaction.
And that will, if it hasn't happened to you yet, will happen at some point in your Magic career.
And like, I hate to say it, it probably happens to someone in one of our games that we play together between, as a collective once a game.
Oh, easily,
yeah. It's a fact of the game, but minimizing that for a new player so that they don't get blown out or something like that.
There is a reason it was developed by judges. Okay.
Yeah. It's like the most illustrious, overqualified judges in the history of Magic, depending on who you ask.
They sat at the top, but I mean, I've definitely been through that. What, EK? I've reworked my Niv Reborn deck 3 times till we finally got to a good strategy for it.
I'm pretty sure Stevie Suazo has to explain the Valakut, Scape Shift, Vesuva interaction to me every single time that we play, and that's the main thing my deck is trying to do.
Yeah, so like when I play, I have an Anjay Falconwrath deck, and it runs a World Gorger Dragon combo. I don't want to have to I would not say this is an easy to explain combo and like how it works. You know what I mean? So you definitely do not want to go down that road. Now, could you build Anjay Falconwrath a different way? Yeah, you can make her like a Reanimator deck, which is extremely easy to do.
Or like play her the way that she's supposed to be played, and play
with Madness card. Yeah.
Wait,
you could do that, but
it's less fun. Come on.
Yeah. Have you seen some of these Madness cards? They're not very good.
No. Playing lots of bad cards to make one card good. That's what you want to do. That's completely fair.
All right, so Swazo, it's a good idea that this player understands like the rules, interactions, and like make the deck pretty simple. But what about strategy? What should they look for in strategy?
Well, I mean, commander cards and then strategy should be something that are affordable and something that you understand how that works and your cards work together. So
yeah, so a good idea is like the natural strategy that you want to run a commander in is affordable. So if someone who's just starting out, you don't want to like set the barrier of investment too high. They can. So
what you're saying is you don't want them running like Urza as their first commander deck. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. I would say like what let's think of some like really expensive like archetypes. Like lands are pretty expensive. Artifacts gets pretty expensive.
Artifacts specifically, yeah. Eldrazi as a tribal theme.
Yeah.
You probably couldn't find a more expensive tribal theme.
I've seen some extra combats that get pretty expensive, but like I think it's gone down a little bit.
The Narset
or Turns is a pretty expensive one, but for something like
there are things.
But let's look at the case of like Yuriko the Tiger Shadow. Your deck cares about ninjas and getting in for damage. Now, so the good news is most of the ninjas are cheap or inexpensive. So you don't need to worry about spending a lot on the ninja portion of the deck. The other portion of the deck is I probably wouldn't recommend this to somebody just because you have to explain ninjutsu to them. So,
right.
but just an example, like the rest of your deck is mostly like little unblockable, little guys that are either hard to block or unblockable, or stuff that manipulates the top of your deck,
or makes your stuff unblockable,
right,
or things like that.
Yeah,
right.
like,
But let's look at something like I don't know. Swazo will probably like this one. Talrun the Sky Summoner. So this is a blue commander that cares about you playing instances of sorceries, and you get a little flyer for doing so.
You just get a bunch of incremental value over time, right? You see, there's a very clear strategy there, and
Right.
and it's easy to build around. There's a ton of instants and sorceries. Isn't like there's 4 or 5 of them that are $80 to $90 a piece. There are hundreds of those cards that you can put in your deck and take advantage of your commander.
Yeah, you can literally play instant sorceries that are literal sense.
Mm-hmm. And they give you great card advantage, like opt 1 blue, draw a card. You're making a do, drawing a card, scrying your deck. It's pennies for that card. Little things like that you can just stuff your deck full of.
My first commander deck that I ever built was Feather the Redeemed, and Feather is Boros combat tricks and like making tokens.
It looks like one of my draft decks.
Yeah, it literally it looks like a draft deck, but it's a commander deck. But like all of those cards are like a nickel or a dime or a quarter if you want them in foil. But like, you could build a reasonably competitive Feather deck for like $60. The most expensive card in your deck is maybe Aurelia if you choose to run her.
Yeah, I would say like this is just me. Like if you could build a deck at like $1 a card average, then that's for your first deck. That's pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, and like considering that a lot of that deck is going to be basic lands, like you make up some of that budget elsewhere by running basic lands and stuff like that. So.
Exactly. That lets you put in some money into some of the other cards. Maybe you want to have something that's going to give you a better synergy. Like, I'll use like my Ricksmithies deck as an example. A Ricksmithies lets you tap for a green and a blue. It is a 12/12 Kraken, but I can combo it with Pemin's Aura to untap, get infinite green mana. But if you can't afford a Pemin's Aura, because it is starting to push up there, you get like a Peel from Reality. It's a cheaper version of the enchantment. Doesn't do everything, but it still lets you get into the untap and the retap for infinite mana. You can find budget options of good stuff and keep your strategy still together. And if you're focusing on like a basic land base, that's really going to help you optimize the cost of your deck when you're starting out. You don't just have to go out and get all the fetches, all the shocks and stuff, right? Like you can go with a 36 land base, sub into 20-25 basic lands, run a couple basic fetches, and like you're off to a good start for a budget deck.
Yeah, you don't need the expensive staple. There is always a budget replacement for most expensive staples, you just re-cater your strategy to do something differently.
Yeah,
Speaking of expensive, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I gotta go, Steve.
No, you're good. I just found that like Magic, the mana base is like the most important part of almost any Magic deck. And I find that in Commander, you get the most wiggle room with that because there's so many options of cards that virtually do the same thing. Maybe it enters play tapped instead of coming in untapped, but it's a 10-cent card versus a $400 card. Does it really matter? Like if you're trying to have fun with your friends, does that really matter? Like, so there's all sorts of options for things like that.
Yeah. So speaking of mana bases, so another good what am I trying to say here, guys? A good criteria for picking your first commander is you want the decking, having the deck and commander be able to be expanded upon over time and give you access to a more powerful deck.
Yeah, so yeah. I think what you're saying is you can take that budget deck that you're getting in the door with, or that first deck that you're getting in the door with, and you can take it down, tear it apart, take it down, and turn it into like 2 different decks later on down the line.
Or you can just improve upon what you have in the current deck, like pick something that does what you're doing in the deck, but better.
Or I'm replacing my Guild Gates and my tap lands with like Battle Bond lands or Zendikar lands,
or even like Buddy lands or anything like or Pain lands. Something like a little bit better than a budget option. So when I think of like this, like. And I've seen some pretty expensive versions of this guy, but like the Gitrog monster is one of those decks that you can build pretty cheaply. but then expand upon it over time. But but as far as like if there was a commander I could recommend that fits this criteria the best, I got like Yarok the Desecrated is just like extremely easy to understand, and like you get to expand upon him a lot and very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
we've been talking like the last week. It is really hard you have to go out of your way to make a bad Yarok deck.
And
you can do anything with Yarok because his text is so wide open.
Well, I was just gonna say, like EK was just saying, it's so versatile. We started out looking at like a graveyard deck, and then suddenly we moved from graveyard to ETBs into a foundation of here's how I'm gonna get rid of my entire library and win with the Thassa's Oracle or Laboratory Maniac using Yarok as our immediate trigger. Like we went from one end of the extreme to the other. Like that shows you just how wide of a deck range you can build with Yarok. There's no one bad way to do it.
Yeah. So, and you have like tons of choices too. Like even at the like from the like moving up from the budget range, like you can pick things that are like much more powerful, like for a little bit more for a little bit extra investment, and still get that. And the thing is, like Yarok cares about permanence, for example. So like you can improve your entire permanent base. So like you can get better things with ETBs, or you can get like say you were running Yarok and you could upgrade one of your lands to a Field of the Dead, and then you would have that aspect, so you could get double triggers from Field of the Dead,
which is disgusting. That's so many zombies.
Yeah, and like Yarok Field was like a thing in Standard, so if everyone jumping from Standard into Commander now, like if you thought that strategy was crazy in like Standard or Brawl when it was still legal, like put it in Commander with every card.
Yeah, and so like another card you kind of goes in with that strategy too that can be expanded upon. I mean, we could look at like Zada Hedron Grinder. So
hello,
did
we lose
Shawnee?
All right, yeah, so Zada Hedron Grinder is a pretty easy commander to understand. He cares about targeting one guy with combat tricks and having a wide board and spreading out the love to all your little bros. So the good news is, so the deck's already pretty cheap to run, but you can put a lot of more powerful cards in there, and you can make it this like monster mono red deck over time.
While we're talking about him really quick, just another little note when we're talking about affordable options. There's a lot of commanders that are uncommons. Just throwing that out there. Like they're not all rares and mythics. So like you can get into the game finding a one in a random pack essentially.
How about that? How about this one? He was from Throne of Eldraine. And I looked at this guy for a little while and I thought about building him. Grumgully the Generous cares about non-humans entering the battlefield, could be tokens or otherwise. And they just get bigger, and you just make this very wide board, and then and it's extremely easy to understand. And you could just improve your creature base over time.
Well, like a lot of people really like Sir Conrad as well, and he's like what 60 cents.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. So next criteria that we like for picking in your first commander is the commander itself or the strategy it affords offers a safety net for the player that can minimize some feel bad. So a feel bad would be like, oh, I can never play my commander, or my commander died too, or I can play my commander, but if it gets removed, I don't know what I'm going to do, kind of thing.
Or like your commander just keeps getting removed. Or
like you don't necessarily need to have this guy out to do the thing your deck needs to do.
Exactly.
So some good examples are some of the like the Amonkhet gods, like the Scarab God and Locust God. They basically help you avoid commander attacks, and are extremely powerful in that they are pretty difficult to get rid of. But the other thing I thought of was if the commander is low cost, that usually minimizes some feel bads because you can probably get him back again pretty easily.
Yeah, like Reese the Redeemed, or there's a lot of Theros gods that are 3 mana each.
Yeah,
and those guys are also indestructible too. And means the only way to get rid of them is to exile or force sacrifice or use like Chaos Warp on them too. So they're not going anywhere once you cast them.
No, they tend to stick around. I mean, we had a pod we were playing on Friday night, and one of the guys played First Purphoros.
Purphoros, yeah.
Purphoros, yeah.
Let me just say for the record that Purphoros is like my boogeyman commander. I barely ever beat this thing.
I feel you. Like, it's hard. Every time they just slam in little zombies or not even zombies, but tokens, creatures. Crankle Mob Boss with First Purphoros gets disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean that Purphoros is actually the best goblin commander?
In a way, yes.
I'm definitely running it in a goblin deck, but I don't know if I'm using it as the commander just because I always want access to it.
All right,
That's something to consider.
Yeah, and friend of the show, Saucy Mailman of Legends of Runeterra fame, told me to mention this when we were talking about commanders with a safety net. Nezahal the Primal Tide.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Actually, yeah.
He's very difficult to remove.
Yeah, it's a 7/7. B, it has a resurrection, a way to resurrect it without going to the command zone. There's a couple cards that are like that too.
Ooh,
but
I would say anything with hexproof is usually a good option.
Yeah, basically any sort of evasion.
Yeah.
By removing one way of getting rid of it, you are technically making less chance for a field ad. There are obviously better ways than others, like indestructible and having a resurrection trigger, things like that. But just like anything, really.
Yeah, as long as it lends its way to stay on the board and will be impactful, that is another great way to tell it's going to be a great commander for you.
Yeah, having some resiliency in your command zone is always nifty.
Yeah, like you don't want to just pop out like a 6-cost commander and then the next turn see it die.
Yeah, whoops, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
You guys brought up Yuriko earlier in the show. Like, Yuriko also fits into this tenet as well, because like you can always commander ninjutsu her. You never actually have to cast her.
Right.
So you're never going to have to pay an extra commander tax ever with her.
Right. So Swazzo, let's talk about some fundamentals here. So hitting the fundamentals is always getting commander, right?
Absolutely. Simply just like picking your commander in colors that allow you to do some basic strategies in Magic, like ramping, getting more mana, additional lands, drawing more cards than your opponents. Things like that are going to give you consistent value and help you edge that advantage in your commander games. You don't have to have these powerful one-time tricks to kind of win the game for you. You can the commander's a long game. There's 3 other opponents. Not everyone's always focused on you. Sometimes just doing little things that get you ahead is going to be enough.
Yeah, I always say this to people when I evaluate their decks. Like, they'll send me a deck and I'll look at it and I say, like, I'll see and there's not enough ramp or card draw in there, or that kind of thing. So ramp and card draw in commander isn't the exception to the rule; it's the rule. Like, everyone plays by this kind of thing.
Yeah. There's a reason why the quote unquote, somewhat generally accepted deck building template for commander says you need a certain amount of card draw sources and a certain amount of sources of ramp in every deck. Because generally the person who ramps the most and draws the most cards is going to have the highest chance of winning. Now let me pose this question to you guys. Does that mean are we saying that someone has to play green? Because
no.
It kind of sounds like we're saying that they have to play green.
Well, I want to say like green definitely leverages you into the ramp aspect.
Yeah, but it doesn't leverage you in the card draw aspect. I mean, you want to.
Wow, I would have used to say that.
Yeah,
Green's
gotten a lot of card draw.
That's true. I will yield to that. Traditionally, it was blue, but I mean that's true. Like you don't have to just play green for ramp. You don't just have to play blue or green for draw. There are ways to do that in other colors. Just not quite as well. I mean, let's look at white. White has really different ways of doing its land ramp, right? You have
That's a
cards
nice way to say it.
Yeah, it's unintuitive. It's conditional. You know, it's just there are certain colors do things easier than others.
And some colors do things more straightforward than others too.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
every color can draw cards. It's way easier for blue because all of their cards just say draw card, you know. But like there are roundabout ways to get through that in black by paying life, things like that. And it's interesting that, you know, green ramping, things like that. It's much more obvious.
Yeah.
Red has impulsive draw or like gamble. It's technically card draw.
It
You
is.
don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, red
and
has
you're
that
gonna
weird-
lose it.
Yeah, like red has like ramp through like rituals and stuff, and like
Yeah.
other things. Like some of the guys in red, like I have to go to combat to get some ramp, or I have to do damage to you to get ramp, or you just play a ritual spell like that will just give you some mana.
White is the friend that's telling you not to do something because it's a bad idea, and red is the one who gets arrested with you and says that was a blast. You know,
I was gonna say white's that dude that tries to do the thing that you're doing and just doesn't do it quite as well. And it's like, but he's still like he'll just like say, okay, I did it. It'll be like, this is the best I can do right now with this.
White's like you said, I did it. Doesn't matter that it was not as great, but you know, I did it. Thumbs up.
Yes, but it's like, but you barely did anything. But didn't he?
Did he do enough?
Did I get 20 mana before my next turn from Smothering Tithe? Yes, I did.
So like good command. So like blue green is like an easy choice for like a good color combo for it to put that kind of leverage in the command zone. Edric is usually one that I put to mind as far as a commander. Like he gives you card draw through combat on your creatures. And
all the creatures that you want to run in an Edric deck are like pennies because they're all like those cheap little 1 and 2 drops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you didn't like that, we can even go with a tribal route. Marwyn the Nurturer is actually one of my favorite commanders. That puts ramp in their command zone.
Dude, I don't know. I've never run into someone playing commander that didn't love playing elves. Like it's just such a fun strategy, and all the cards are like a quarter, 50 cents, 60 cents.
Well, some of the more expensive. There's some elves that get up there, but like you can still build an elf deck without running them.
The baseline like introductory package is super cheap.
I'm not sure that if you don't enjoy and have a soft spot in your heart for a Llanowar elf, I don't think we can be friends. Okay, it's
part of it
it's
too.
there.
I agree with Swazzle. Like you have to have the love for Llanowar elves. It's just one of the most basic mana dorks there is. He's a lovable guy. He's a 1-mana 1/1. But also with elves too, like there's a couple different ways you can take like an elf deck. Like you do a tribal for buff, spam out tokens, infinite life gain. Like it lends itself to a lot of combos that can be expanded off too. So
it turns out elves can be like the engine of your deck, and you can just do other things with it. Like I know one of the more popular Edric decks that's like pretty like on the higher power levels. Not that I would recommend this for somebody new, but like Edric Turns is like a real thing, and it's basically just an elf base with a bunch of turn spells.
Yeah, and you're gonna start casting them really quickly.
I mean, I'm gonna retouch on a previous point because we're talking about elves. Elves upgrades into so many really good decks too. Like you can take that elf package card for card, boom, you have Selvala.
Yeah, so you have a shell of elves, and you can you can use them for a shell in another deck if you ever just get tired of what you're wanting to play.
You could like if any of your commanders ever have green in it, chances are you probably could play elves, and like you'll have a good deck.
And there's good options for that too, right? Like when you think elves, sometimes you're gonna think I need a ton of green mana. Elf creatures can do it, but you might also be along the lines of thinking Gaia's Cradle, because that just is a tap land to add one green mana for every creature you've got. But there is a budget option from Ixalan, the transform card.
Oh yeah, Growing Rights of Itlamok, So like so yeah, you could go with that route instead. Like you don't need a $400 card in order to run elves. You can run this other card.
And also, what we're trying to say is not play elves in all your decks. What we're trying to say is that if you have this elf package, it allows you to play so many other commanders as well. Not that you have to have an elf ball in all your decks. It just opens up the doors for you to play other things and have more fun.
Yeah, when it comes to ramping and leveraging ramp and card draw, the reason you do this though is so that you can make sure you play the game, because like the worst thing that can happen for a new player is, oh, I didn't get to play the game because you couldn't cast your spells, or you just ran out of cards and you just ran out of steam. That's why having a commander that it can do that is not mandatory, but like very good, especially for a new commander player.
Yeah, you want to have a game that's going to be enjoyable, and you want to feel like you've made some impact, whether your impact is being political and making friendships, or owning the board, or getting resources,
or playing a 12/12 Hydra every single turn.
Right.
Yeah.
But for the most part, even if all the commander does is help that player do the fundamentals of commander, that's usually enough for them to have an enjoyable time.
While we're talking about playing cards, ramping, and having an enjoyable time, for your commander too, pick something that costs less mana if you're newer to the format or you're just trying something out. Your commander is going to die. It's going to go back to the command zone, and it's going to cost more to play each time. It's more fun when you play the card you want to play. Don't pick something that costs 8, and in 2 times, by turn 12, you can't even cast the damn thing. Okay? Yeah. Pick something to have fun with.
I've been waiting 7 turns to cast my commander,
and now it's finally going to happen.
And then they destroy your mana rock.
I tap 2 blue, counter spell. Oops. Oh, commander resolves. I go to combat. Tap to swing. 1 mana, path to exile. Swords to Plowshares.
2 blue. They gave me counters I don't even need mana for now.
Right.
Even 2 blue and 2 color. Aether size on attacking creatures.
Aetherize, what a card.
Right.
So I'm gonna put you guys on the spot. What would you say is a good mana cost? X or below?
I would say
I'm gonna go 5.
Probably anywhere I would say between 3 and 5 would probably be my optimum.
That's where my head's at too.
Because the way I see it, okay, if you basically turn 1, I can maybe depending on the deck you'll play some 1 mana rampers, either a Fertile Ground or not Fertile Ground, a Wild Growth, or a Mana Dork or something like that. But for the most part, most decks are starting to ramp on 2. So 2 gets you to your 4-cost commander. So on the following turn, I would say any way where you can play a ramp spell within the first few turns that'll get you to your commander 1 or 2 turns early is usually a good place to start.
I think another way to look at it too is this. If I play my commander and it instantly gets removed, can I replay it during my next turn?
Yeah, pretty quickly.
That's important.
Background. Can I try again?
Yeah. You don't want to be sitting there, like we said, at turn 7 playing your commander and then hanging out to turn 9. By that point, a lot of games have entered into where you've established what's going to be going on, or who is on your chopping block potentially, right? There's a lot of stuff that happens in between turns 5 and 9. So if you've got a low-cost commander to get into the game early, especially when you're new, you'll have a better chance of interacting in the game and having a lot more fun.
Yeah, the big thing is, I would say for a new player, you want to make sure the best way to have fun is making sure you get to do what the thing your deck did. Even if you didn't win, as long as you got to do something, do the thing your deck did, then that's fine.
That's another thing too. Make sure your commander affects the board. Or something the turn you play it, or that you can do something with it. Like we're saying, it's going to be a target. They're going to be trying to remove your commander. If you just tap 5 mana and take off the next 3 turns because I kill it, you didn't do anything, and you're not having fun.
Yeah. So examples like a commander that would impact the board pretty much. I would say for the most part, Ayara. First, the Lockwing from Eldrin. She's basically a mono black Perfuro, so she basically sets the tone of the game as soon as she comes out, and she comes out pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another way that you can look at this too is maybe you play a commander where you don't actually need the commander to do the strategy that you're trying to do.
Yeah, like going back on the subject of Yarrick, like, do you need Yarrick to do what the deck does? No, does it? He just amps up what the deck does to like another level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like your deck has a synergy, but your commander's just your commander because of the colors.
Yeah.
Sultai
maybe-
is always
maybe
going
it's
to do
just something
Sultai
that-
things, but Yarok's
Yeah.
going to make it
Yeah.
very nasty.
Yeah, it's like entering the battlefield is good. Entering the battlefield twice is better. It's like same deal with Taste of Karlov. Although I would probably not recommend that to recommend Taste of Karlov to a new player, because like you have to like explain what the difference between death and exile and all this other stuff is. One, that can be a little daunting, and two, like she has a lot of text.
I find this hilarious because Lady Swazo's first commander deck is Taste of Karlov.
I mean, I guess it depends on your play group. Like, if you have someone who can explain this to you, or you have your previous card games. But I'm talking from a position of, I've never played a card game before. This is my first dabble into a card game. Magic the Gathering is the most complex game on the planet. Let's try to make it as easy as we can for that player. You know what I mean?
Right.
We had like going back on Grumgully, my friend Logan Watkins. He plays with us in our Discord. He built his girlfriend Grumgully. Like, it doesn't get much easier than that. Just is it a non-human? Yes, it gets a +1/+1 counter.
Mm-hmm. Easy to check.
Oh, the deck is one non-human, so it's extremely easy. And not only that, it can be tokens. The tokens it can be tokens, so you can play a token deck and get those kinds of things.
And we all know that turning like 50 cards sideways and just pushing them at the table, like, here you go. That's fun.
Yeah,
Feels like you're doing something.
Yeah, assembling like the battle cruiser, like your army in a can, and then just like turning them to the right seems pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel like you said, it's like when we think of commander, we have our general, our commander, but like, you honestly do feel really powerful when you're like tapping 50 creatures if you've gone into tokens. Like,
why do you think I don't put dice on my tokens? I put out another card onto my playmat because I want to feel like a kid.
Feels good.
And just take both of my hands like a DJ and just spin my entire playmat to the side.
Also
Like a
true.
DJ.
All right.
DJ EK.
So I want to say another. So let's talk about another criteria that that we all feel is pretty good. So you want your commander to lend itself easily to find synergistic cards and a direction when developing your strategy. So like when it comes to a strategy, like you want your commander to like amplify that or be part of that. And if it's easy to find cards that synergize with it and take you in the direction you want to go, that makes it much more enjoyable and the deck like a little bit more robust, especially for a newer player. So, for example, like I would not like say like okay, like, but like cards that are like, yes, the energy cards are synergistic, but I would not recommend someone build an energy deck just because there's so few of them. Like it's not easy to find a way out for that, like a way to make that work. For example,
Just don't tell that to Sheldon Menery because he's famous for having a Yarok energy deck.
That sounds really cool.
Well, there's a difference between Sheldon Menery and someone who's played Commander, playing Commander for the first time.
He created the format. No, but to build off what Adam was saying, like I want to be able to read the Commander, and I want to know exactly what to put in the deck just by reading the Commander and seeing what it does.
Yeah, so like give an example. For example, like Tristani. Tristani cares about tokens. So you want to put in cards that either make tokens or give you or do something with tokens.
Yep. Another card that we talked about
was Tristani Silesia's voice, not Tristani Discordant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between those two. You probably run both of them in the same deck.
Oh yeah, like Tristani Discordant totally shut down my Mercheza deck, and I cried for a game.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say like an ETB deck or like Death Matters decks or like Blinking or
like Auras, like Bruna Light Alabaster makes it really easy to understand what's going on. It's like I want to play a bunch of Auras. If I lose those Auras, Bruna will bring them back.
Yeah,
exactly. You have written here. We broke down Brago, King Eternal. It's very straightforward. When it deals combat damage to a player, exile any target number of non-land permanents you control. And you want to blank creatures and stuff you have with ETB triggers. Simple. Turn your commander sideways, remove and
and
return your
reuse
stuff.
those ATBs. Yeah,
Like, it's a very straightforward strategy. You know what you're doing.
And there's some really
you know what cards to put in there because
exactly.
Brago is there's not that many words on the card. The words on the card are pretty easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But he's impactful, and there's a lot of really, really cool stuff you can do with Brago. I mean, in a Blink Effect deck with Brago, when you're abusing ETBs, he is the king. And if you literally king,
it's in
his card name.
yeah, I was going for the pun. I'll be honest there.
But
But like, if you partner Brago King Eternal with Aurelia War Leader, right? When she attacks the first of the turn, you untap your creatures and gain an extra combat step. If Brago deals the combat damage and you you blink Aurelia War Leader, you engage in infinite combat turns.
I would say like that's something you wouldn't put on a new player, but that is a good example.
No, but it's just like there's ways and interactions to abuse. I wouldn't say for someone new to go into that because the color combinations you need for that are at least a 3-color to 5-color deck.
Yeah.
But there's ways to abuse Brago in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Good.
I was gonna say a lot of the decks that we talked about tonight, actually all but one of them have been 2 colors or 1 color. Yarok is really the only commander that we brought up that's more than 2 colors.
I think we mentioned Surrak Dragonclaw too. He's just got a lot of text on him. It's pretty easy to understand what he does.
Yeah. No, but if a deck is 2 colors, your mana base isn't that complicated, or you're not having to pull from a bunch of different color combinations to piece together a deck either. You have pretty straightforward stuff. A lot of it leans on like the Ravnica guilds, which all things considered, a lot of those mechanics are also really easy to understand as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of those mechanics are really cool too. Like each guild had something different they did, and it reflected what that color combination was. I don't want to say like amazing at, but reflective of what they could do.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like all of the guild cards synergize with each other. So you could just you could build a deck that is all guilds of Ravnica allegiance, and use a lot of these newer cards, which are easier to find.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. So cards being easy to find. So like, if you're looking for again, this we can even look at tribal. Like, is this you're playing Marwyn? Is this an elf? Okay, it probably goes in this deck. Just as an example, yeah. It's so, especially when they're new player and they're digging through cards and constructing their deck, because you want them to be the crafter. You want them to be the one that make the deck. Net decking is great and all, but I think I think it's kind of disenfranchising, I suppose.
As a mainly constructed format player, standard, modern, and first step is admitting it, okay? As a serial net decker,
I knew
it really doesn't help you get ahead in Commander. It's just so much different about the format that net decking is really not going to teach you anything you need to know about the format.
Yeah, and building the deck's one of the fun parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you spend hours making decks sometimes, just literally browsing through cards. We're like, ooh, this is cool. Ooh, this is awesome. Hey, this works with this and this, and then you end up with 200 cards and have to cut it down to 100.
Yeah, when I made my I have a Corval deck that runs Shadowborn Apostles as the theme. That took a little while to build. It took me several drafts of the deck before I finally got it to where I liked it. And literally just yesterday I updated the list again. So it started as something, and I did some testing, went back to it. That's the thing. It's so this is probably another thing, just as a general Commander tip. It's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes, as long as learning from them was what is important.
Absolutely.
Every game needs a takeaway, whether it's learning maybe I change a card in a deck, or I learned about a new interaction between cards I haven't played yet.
Yeah. So I think those are. So are there any other criteria that you guys can think of that we missed as far as what makes for a good commander?
I think we pretty much topped it all for what we had going on there.
Yeah, and we gave some good So let's just go down the line. We'll start with Swazzo. What is so you're gonna recommend your friend their first commander deck? Who is the general gonna be?
I'm picking something green, something straightforward.
Something that doesn't have a $30 shockland.
So I want them to be able to. I really liked what we've talked about with this, using mana dorks, elves, inexpensive cards like Explore, things like that to get mana advantage, have more lands in play, be able to cast your commander more often. I also like beating things down. The most fun I had when I was a kid playing Magic was turning creatures sideways. I would look at someone like Galta or something like that. That would be a lot of fun for somebody to play. Get a lot of mana ramp, play really big freaking not really
Play
big
this
freaking
giant thing, yeah.
just big green thing, turn it sideways, you might win the game. Like that's a lot of fun for people.
I'm gonna float this your way. Can I introduce you to our Lord and Savior Gragos, the Hydra tribal guy?
Oh man, what a thing!
Yeah, exactly.
What a great thing, I think you mean.
What could be more fun than that, Something big, I don't want to call it stupid for lack of a better term, but something just big and green. It doesn't need a lot of text, and just have fun attacking with creatures. Like that's a lot of the fun of Magic. There's a lot of different creatures you can have fun with.
All right, EK, how about you?
I'm gonna lean again. I'm gonna agree with Stevie Swazzo and say something that ramps or draws cards, but I'm gonna the thing that I always harp on is a deck or a commander that can be expanded on over time. Something that builds a collection. You can take it apart, turn it into a different deck. You save the different deck lists, but you technically you only have one deck at a time, but you're able to build multiple decks. So some things that fit into each other. So I would say like Windgrace or Corvold. If you're looking at a 3-color deck, but in terms of a two-color deck, any of the Boros commanders.
Of course.
Obviously, I'm going to say the Boros commanders, but they all have a backbone of soldiers and angels, and they use the same white and red staples that every other white and red deck use. So you build one deck, you're able to take the different pieces and turn it into another deck, or expand it into different colors or different decks that splash white or splash red. Mm-hmm. So I like something that builds a collection. So that's how I built my commander collection, and I couldn't see doing it any other way. So I can't recommend that enough either. So,
Sean, how about you?
I'm with EK on the aspect of red. Personally, I would like to suggest red and blue because there's a lot of wide variety of combos you can do in either colors as mono or together. I'm also just a guy that likes Izzet, so there's that.
There's also something to be said about that. Like red and blue are the two colors that I think are going to be interacting the most. So if you just want to do things, that's not the wrong way to go.
Yeah, I was going to say those are the two colors that are all about dealing damage and drawing cards.
And they do it good. And each of the staples that you grab for one red-blue deck or even a red deck or a blue deck on their own tend to carry over. If you pick up an Opt is a great 1-mana card to scry and draw. Chances are you're going to want to run that in other mono blue decks or red and blue decks together. It's good synergistic. Instants and sorceries is a type of deck you can make. It's also just a great draw card. You're checking the top card. You can put it to the bottom or top, and then you draw. It's a good value and effective.
I was going to say building a red blue deck. So, blue is what is blue? It's not in my vocabulary. Building a red blue deck, the baseline red blue deck can easily be turned into a teamer deck. You splash green into it. Then you can turn it into Grixis and add black, or a lot of there's the new cycling commander. Just add white,
and suddenly you're in Jeskai.
Yeah, it is probably one of the most flexible color combinations out there. I would say. I'll go out on a limb and say that.
Is it really?
Oh dear. All right. So for me,
if this is going to be a running gag of Sean just doing nothing but bad jokes, I'm honestly here for it.
Poggers.
all right. So I'm gonna make this as easy as possible. Gruel Smash. I'm telling some of my friend to play Rurik Thar.
Hey.
And
Hey,
it's like, here's this. You have very few card types, so most of your deck is creatures. You play these creatures. If your opponents don't want to play creatures, then they're gonna get hurt. And you have this giant thing that hurts people, and blocks flyers.
you're turning him sideways too. You're turning.
Oh, he don't even
everything
turn sideways. This boy, he's got vigilance too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a Breach Vigilance, deals 6 whenever your non-creature spells cast and attacks each turn. He's just big.
I think, yeah, but I think the big thing is that like the deck will probably not have too many cards that are not lands or creatures. So for someone who's like very new to Magic, that's like they don't have to worry about all that like a lot of complicated stuff.
Yeah, the artifacts and enchantments that a Rurik Thar deck is going to play are really straightforward.
If they
don't-
play,
and
yeah, if
don't
they
have a
play
lot
any
of-
of them at all, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of rules interactions, so you're not having to get a college degree to learn how to play the deck.
Yeah, you can just go out and do it. It does Gruel Smashy things.
Well,
Well,
I think we covered everything pretty much for my first commander.
Yeah, I mean, like guys, for the listeners out there, were there any commanders that work well for your first deck that you thought we missed? Let us know. Let us know in our episode comments. Let us know through Twitter, Instagram. Reach out to us. Give us a shout. We're always looking for new stuff to add in and talk about.
Yeah, we care about your guys' feedback, and we want to know what you guys are thinking out there too.
You know, guys, I think it's been aside from some little technical issues we kind of got, it's been a pretty solid night tonight.
Absolutely.
First episode of many.
Lots of many.
Yeah.
I think I'll lead us into our closing here then. So you can find us on Twitter at Draw for Turn and Instagram at Draw for Turn Podcast. We tend to post daily discussion topics, so drop us a follow, get on the conversation, hit us up with a question. Like, let us know what's on your mind at Commander.
Yeah.
Adam, what's
right,
yeah.
Yeah, so you guys can drop me a follow on Twitter at DES_AdamN. I may or may not acknowledge it, but no, I'll acknowledge it. But before, just want to give a shout out since, we're kind of like in this time where we can't go very many places, but I do want to shout out my local game stores, Top Deck Games in Westmont, New Jersey, and the comic book store in Glassboro, New Jersey. 2 awesome places to get cards from if you're in the area or looking for good singles and friendly service. These guys are great, so just give them a shout.
Yeah, and I'm going to double down on what Adam said. You can follow me on Twitter at EKBlitzCards, but I'm also going to shout out my local game store because I love my local game store, and you guys should love your own local game store. But if you're a Chicagoland guy, check out Games Plus out in the suburbs. They are probably the friendliest game store that I have ever been to, and I've been to a lot of different ones. In a time like this, the local game store is more important than ever because we want to be able to go back to them. So do everything that you can do to support your local game store, whatever that is. Buying a couple packs curbside or going and getting a booster box and getting your Reliquary Tower and new Walking Ballista promo. Mm-hmm. Shout out to that. But,
yeah, that didn't make the news segment because it just happened just before the show. So,
but yeah, newsflash: you can get a special foil Reliquary Tower and Walking Ballista if you support your local game store. So do that.
Yeah. And I mean, stemming off from that, you guys can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram at Astros Flame. I do a mix of streaming from Magic the Gathering Arena, Diablo 3, D&D. Friday nights, I'm hosting our Commander Pods as well. If you want to get in on the action, let us know. We're always looking for new people to bring into our streaming pods. My local game store I want to give a shout out to is Face to Face Games, located in Toronto, Montreal. I have been buying off them the last couple months, and I have never been more impressed with them in the last few months than I have ever. Every package is taken in quality care. They have their workers on a raise during these pressing times. They're all 6 feet apart. They have special little cubicle areas where it's like clean and healthy. They're doing good.
Awesome, and I'll be brief, but definitely not shameless. You can give me a follow on Twitter and Twitch at SwazoTV. And I'll give a shout out to my LGS as well in Brandon, Florida. Just playing over at Cool Stuff Games, but the people that works there are absolutely incredible. Can't wait to get back there and play some Paper Magic again soon and see all the guys.
All right, guys. Well, as always, everyone, remember, untap, upkeep, pour your local game store, and
Drop
Drop
return.
return.
take care, guys. Have a great night.